Let's talk about the academic writing process. Now, this is extremely important for you because you have to understand that academic writing is not just getting up, picking up a piece of paper, writing it, and submitting it. It takes a lot more because there's a lot more that is required of you, and you will learn that as you go along in the course. There is a certain way a paragraph has to be structured, a certain way that you use transitional devices to achieve coherence. Then there is the writing style issue as well, which we will study later. The concept of a thesis statement, topic sentences, using hooks in introductions. So structuring your essay, organizing your ideas in such a way that it requires a lot of time. If you follow this writing process, you'll be surprised that it won't take a lot of time, right? So you're putting in the right type of effort. Now, if you don't follow the writing process, what happens is that yes, you are putting in effort, but that effort isn't going to be very fruitful because it's not the right type of effort, right? So let's start talking about this. Now, here's a question for you. Think about this. When an assignment is set for you, what do you do? How do you go about working on it? What's the first thing in your mind? For many of us, it would be, oh no, right? Or you would be, all right, I need to set up my study area first. I need to set up everything. Things need to look perfect, and only then can I start. So you're basically procrastinating a lot, and that's what most of us do. The reason is that it's that concept of not liking writing. Also, the concept of a writer's block jumps in here because you really don't know what you're going to write about. Okay, so you do have to think about what is your writing process. So is it that you procrastinate? Is it that you're scared of a writer's block? You pick up a piece of paper, you switch on your computer, and you've got a new Word file up on your screen, and you sitting there waiting for ideas to pop into your head, and nothing happens. What is it that you do? Now, remember that good writing is a lot of hard work, but it pays off if done the right way. Okay, so a process is essential, otherwise you will end up procrastinating, you will end up with writer's block, you will end up making effort and getting nothing out of it. Okay, so when Hemingway, I'm sure you know who Hemingway was, when he was asked about the scariest thing that he'd ever encountered, you know what he said? You'd be surprised. He said, a blank piece of paper. And if you think about it, it's a very daunting thing when you have a blank piece of paper in front of you and you have to write out an essay of some sort and you can't figure out what to write. So, if we use the academic writing process properly, you will be able to come up with ideas very quickly, put them down in the right sort of logical order extremely quickly, and then get down to writing it, right? But you do have to understand that just sitting and waiting for it to happen isn't going to happen. The effort has to be put in. And I keep talking about effort and the right attitude throughout my course because what I've seen in over 20 years of teaching experience and training experience, that people just don't want to put in the effort. So that is where the problem starts, right? Now, do remember that good writing is possible. You can write really well if you plan your work properly, if you draft it, if you revise it. You need to have your own writing process, but there are some basics in the writing process that exist for most of us, for all of us, let's say. Okay, I could generalize that way. So there's a lot that has to be done. There's a lot going on in your mind when you're thinking of writing. So that's why it's important to break that thought process into chunks and then work on one chunk at a time. Now I'm showing you 5 chunks here. So these are 5 stages of the writing process. And we're going to look at all of these and discuss all of these, right? So keep in mind that as you move, let's say from here, the pre-writing stage, you have to move in a very systematic manner, that you're generating ideas here in the pre-writing stage, and then you're planning out your ideas, then you're drafting them once and twice and 3 times, or however many times you need to, and drafting and revising and editing. You revise and edit, you draft again, you revise and edit, you draft again, finally you proofread. Now you can't jump from here to here. Okay, you can't just start here, it's not possible. Then you will have writer's block, then you will because you won't be able to come up with ideas, you know what you're going to do? You're going to cheat. You're going to plagiarize. So this process, if you follow it, it also saves you from plagiarism. And there is another benefit, because you're doing it very systematically, the process helps you generate ideas. Generate, that's the key term. So it helps you generate ideas and organize them well, so then you're less anxious and the writing process becomes less stressful. And when it's less stressful, obviously you're going to do a better job, right? And of course, so it's a better way to learn, and you learn how to learn then also. That's extremely important. Now let's take a look at the writing process. Let's start with the first stage, the pre-writing stage, and I want to go over it quickly because these things are rather simple, but I will share some examples with you as well. Right now, if I were to ask you to think about, okay, write out an essay about search something that annoys you, right? And you're going to be like, just that question annoys me, and that's okay. That's nothing absurd. It's okay to think like that. It's okay to have strange reactions to writing prompts. Prompts are those little instructions or things that you're supposed to be doing in the academic world. So I give you a prompt, what annoys you, right? And you'll get irritated with the prompt, and that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with it. That irritation will, if you delve deep into the irritation, it will take you to your first idea, right? And how do you go about doing that? You go about doing that through free writing. It's a very interesting concept, and I'll explain it in a bit with an example. There are certain questions that you can also use in the pre-writing stage to generate ideas. Remember, the focus of the pre-writing stage is to do what? Generate ideas. So you question, you list out things, you use a clustering technique which you're familiar with because you've learned it in school as well. But the point is that you do have to be open to any idea, right? Don't think of your ideas as being wrong. Just any idea is a good idea. Just have that right attitude, okay? Now let's look at each of these in sequence. So you've got the first pre-writing strategy, which is free writing. Now, as the name suggests, all you have to do is just take a piece of paper and just start writing. So when I say whatever annoys you, and you start writing, you say, well, what a weird question. Why is she asking me that? Oh, how irritating. Yeah, that reminds me, traffic irritates me. Also, annoying people who call me at weird hours. Whatever, I can't think of anything to write. Yeah, so I don't like watching movies in the cinema. That annoys me also quite a lot. Okay, what else annoys me? I don't know. I can't come off anything. Oh, I remember that cup of coffee I had. That was amazing. Yeah, and I really, really get annoyed with noisy coffee shops. Now, do you know what I've been doing? What I've been saying? That's basically what you're writing. So whatever comes to your mind, you put it down on paper, right? You don't think, you just write. Whatever comes into your head, whether it's words or sentences or whatever, you just do that. So just don't censor, just don't think, just let it out, right? Look at this. This is someone's free writing draft for you. So they were asked, what do you get annoyed by? Now this is a very, very well thought out. As you progress in your academic career, you get better and better at using these techniques. So when you're writing out your first free writing piece, and I will make you write one soon in the course, you're going to see it's going to be very disconnected and a lot of words here and there. But as you do it once, twice, three times within the course, by the end of the semester, you'll realize even your free writing becomes not bad, right? Okay, so take a look at this. There are a lot of things I get annoyed by. One of them that comes to mind is politicians. See, you don't think of spelling, you don't think of grammar, you don't think of anything, you don't think of punctuation, commas, nothing. You just write, okay? Because the spellings and grammar, they don't matter right now. The aim of this stage is, remember, idea generation. Okay, in fact, I'm so annoyed by them that I don't want to say anything about them. The last I want is to write about them. Another thing that bothers me are people who keep complaining about everything. If you're having trouble, do something about it. Just don't keep complaining and just talking. I'm really annoyed by traffic. There are too many cars in our block, and it's not surprising. Everyone has a car. Parents have a car. The parents are just too indulgent. See, spelling error? And that's okay. And the kids have cars. And they're all coming and going all the time and often driving too fast, speeding up and down the street. We need a speed limit sign. But here I am back with politics again. I'm really bothered when I have to drive to the movies, all the congestion along the way. Plus, there are just so many cars there at the mall. No space, even though the parking lot is huge, it just fills up with cars. Movies are a bother anyway because the people can be annoying who are sitting there in the theater with you, talking and dropping popcorn cups and acting like they're at home when they're not. Now, lots of ideas. As you can see, this is full of ideas. You've got a great flow of ideas going on here, lots and lots of it. So what you do is that you do this and then you read what you've written and then you try to see, is there something I can pick up from here? Now this student, what the student did was that the student decided to redo or do a second free write. But this is not a complete free write. This is where the student picked up one element and the student picked up the annoying thing about movies and then did a second free write. But this time the difference was that the free write was focused on movies, right? Okay. I really find it annoying to go see movies anymore, even though I love films. Traffic to Cinema 6 is awful. I hate looking for a parking place. The lot isn't big enough for the theater and other stores. You just keep driving to find a parking space and hoping someone will pull out and no one else will pull in ahead of you. Then you don't want there to be a long line and to wind up in one of the first rows with this huge screen right in front of you. Then I'm in the theater with the smell of popcorn all around, sitting there smelling it, trying to ignore it, and just wanting to pour a whole bucket of popcorn with melted butter down my throat. Okay, yum. I can't stop thinking about the chocolate bars either. I love the stuff, but I don't need it. The people who are there sometimes drive me nuts, talking and laughing, kids running around, packs of teens hollering. Who can listen to the movie? And I might run into my old boyfriend, the last thing I need. Also, sitting through all the previews and commercials. If I arrive late enough to miss that junk, the movie may be sold out. See, no big deal about spelling and words. So here you've got a jumble of ideas. Now what you can do after you've got a jumble of ideas is try to organize these, right? And you do that by asking yourself questions, and you have to have flexible questions and topic specific questions, right? So you ask yourself, why don't I like to go to a movie? And then you look for in your free ride and you find too many problems. When is going to the movie a problem? Okay, anytime, movie is popular, theater is too crowded, traffic is bad, trip is a drag. So you pick up stuff from your free ride and you ask these questions and then you find answers to these. And now you've got some specific information that you want to think about. So what you can do is you can do this questioning technique right after the free ride and then follow it up with a listing technique, or you can just do the listening technique right after the free ride, or you can do it or you could just do questioning or just do listing also. So now what you do is you don't you just don't use complete sentences, and you don't worry about grammar and spelling, and you do this for about 15 to 20 minutes and you come up with all the issues about movies, right? So the free write will give you an idea of what to do. So after your first free write, you pick up, let's say, the concept of movies, and then you jump to the listing technique where then you write about all these things in random order, jumbled up, that annoy you, right, about this. Then what is very important is that this list has to be fixed up. Now otherwise this list is useless, okay? So you have to keep that in mind, but we will just talk about it in a tiny bit. But here you've got your ideas generated. Now there's another way that you can generate your ideas, and I'm sure you're familiar with this clustering technique or spider web or whatever you want to call it, just a visual representation. And this is something that you can do right after the free write. See, the free write is extremely important. After the free write, you may use a questioning technique, a listening, or a clustering, or all one or two of them. But free write is the main thing that gets you ideas. And the clustering is very important because it shows you relationships. So see, moving going is the annoying bit because there are too many people. And so what? So what? If there are too many people, so what? You ask yourself that. Well, traffic, that's an issue. Line at the box office, that's an issue. So here you know now that this is going to be one chunk, or you can call it a paragraph or a chunk within one paragraph. This might be another one, Noisy people, adults, teenagers showing off, yelling, adults coughing, sneezing, telling the plot. This could be another giant sized paragraph, and this could be another one with the temptations, right? So now you've got one, two, three, and you're like, do I really need to put this in? There isn't much to develop it. Okay, so let me throw this one out, and let's just use one, two, and three points here. So three chunks or three paragraphs or three chunks, right? So clustering is a wonderful idea to see the relationship and to see whether you have enough to say about a particular point. Also, sometimes what happens is that you realize that, oh, this particular point might not be okay for this main point. Maybe I need to move this here. So you can even do that. You can figure that out. You can group things that are similar together. So here you have your 4 techniques for pre-writing, and once you've got your ideas generated, now obviously very obvious sequential thing is that you're going to plan it. You're going to organize it and organize it and organize it, and there is nothing more important than good organization of ideas. So what you're doing is you're coming up with a detailed outline. It has to be very detailed. So if you remember, okay, before I go into the example, here are some points that you might want to look at. That how will a detailed outline be beneficial? You might be asking yourself. I think it's a very common sense question, but I've still listed a few things. That the organized thing is going to make drafting sentences and paragraphs easily. You will be less stressed out. You will discover connections between your ideas more and more. You will save time. People think that by following the writing process, they're spending more time. No, they're not. They are actually saving time. And I challenge you to use the writing process and prove this. It will be proven that you will save more time, because rewriting and reorganization is something that you can avoid. Also, this is a fantastic way to get to sophisticated ideas, more better quality ideas, let's say, and write a better piece. Okay, so now let's look at our going to the movies outline. Remember that listing of points we did? Now from those points we found, okay, here these are similar, and when I talk about inconvenience, these are the things I'll put in. When I talk about this, I'll put in this. Let me take you back, actually. Let me take you back to the list that we were looking at. Here we go. Okay, these are the questions, and here we are listing. See all these. So from here you will try to figure out, okay, huge chocolate bars, tub of food with butter, candy. Okay, these are food related things. These are temptations, so I'll put them under temptations. Now here is a long line, how ticket. Oh, look at this, too many temptations. So this could be my main point, and 1, 2, 3, these could be the sub points. See, so from this list, it's so easy to organize, and from this web, it's so easy to organize again. See, so what you then end up with, let's go back to our important slide here, is simply this, right? A very, very detailed outline, and you may want later to remove things, but for now put everything here, right? Let me show you another sample outline where you have, see, you've got 3 paragraphs that you've decided to write. You could have 4, you could even have just 1, you could have 10, depending on what you're writing and how many words you have to write. So here you have the main topic of the paragraph, and then you have the sub points, and then the sub points, and then the sub points, right? Awesome. So look at this, look at this. So this is such a wonderful way that I will develop this point using this point, and this one in here I will give this information, then I will develop it this way. These will be my concrete examples. The more detail you put in your outline, it is going to be so easy to look at this and then write out a paragraph. All you have to do is find good connections, right? So that takes care of your planning stage. Now the third stage is the drafting stage. This is your first draft. This is not what you submit. Never ever make the mistake of submitting a first draft, please, right? You're not doing yourself a favor. You have to write out a first draft edit it, revise it, rather a second one, maybe a third one, and then proofread, and then a final one. And it's not a lot of work. It doesn't take that much time if you follow it the right way. Okay, so see, what people try to do is that at this stage, they want to write everything perfectly. So they open a document, start typing, they use their outline, they want to get the ideas, all the ideas down. They want to think of perfect vocabulary to use, awesome, perfect grammar. They want it to look good also, so they're constantly formatting it, the document as well. What are you doing? You can't do all those things together. Your first job is to put everything down on paper. You've generated your ideas, you've organized them, now you put them on paper in sentences, right? And paragraphs or whatever. You just put them together, you string them together first, and then you leave them, right? So that's what you have to do at the drafting stage. So this question now should be, the answer to this question should be very obvious. Why is drafting difficult for most writers? Think about it. Yeah, what I've said, right? We're trying to come up with something perfect, right? You can't do that. So don't try to do a lot of things together. So get your ideas down on paper and leave them there. And what people are trying to do is they're trying to get the best on paper with the best possible grammar and elegant wording. No, no, no. It's a first draft, so take it easy. Go through your outline, read what you've already written, pretend you're writing to someone else and read it out to yourself to see how it sounds. Write one paragraph, think about what you can add to it. Don't start with the starting, the opening. Start in the middle. It's never a good idea to start writing your introductory. You never write your introduction first, right? Then make sure that you're writing complete sentences and paragraphs now, whether you're using paragraphs, you're using just one paragraph. You don't want to be thinking about grammar and accurate wording, but it does need to make a little sense. So it can't be like completely disjointed, you know. And if you get stuck on an idea, don't just get stuck there. Move on. Leave it and move on. And it'll come to you later. Trust me, it will. Okay? I have a lot of experience in this, and not just writing myself, but teaching people to write. So do trust me on this. So moving on. What do you do with your first draft? Now that you've written it, you're moving into the next stage, the fourth stage, the revision and editing stage. You are going to rewrite. But before you rewrite, you are going to revise it. You will re-see your paper in a new way. You will look at the structure first, the content then. Or maybe you look at the content. Did you get everything down? But before looking at the content, it's a better idea to look at the structure, because once you've got it organized better, the ideas will flow better. So you look at the structure, the overall structure. You look at the content, then the organization and the ideas. You don't look at grammar and spelling and punctuation at this stage, right? The first revision is related to the structure, the organization of ideas, and what the ideas is, right? Ideas are, right? So when you finish the first draft, you leave it. You leave it for a day. You leave it for a few hours. You have to let it go. You have to close it, not look at it. Then you come back to it. You may print out a clean copy if you are one of those people who wants a printout to look at. But if you're comfortable with a computer screen, there's nothing better than that. Now you read it out, but you read it out to yourself, right? And you will see if there is something uncomfortable there. See what it says. You will see things you want to change and will get a good look at the forest this way without getting caught up in changing individual trees. So an overall impression. Then what you do is you write down a few notes and you say, okay, these are the general observations. Now let me see what I can do. If you say I see a small error, you can change it, but generally we focus more on the global changes at this moment, right? So what you have to do is you save your each draft, by the way. So you must keep a list of, just keep like version 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 and so on. It's a good idea to do that because you may want to come back to it later. Now, so this is something that you must do with your draft, right? Once you put in a few revisions, you leave the paper. and then you repeat the revision process as many times as you want. Remember, here we're looking at adding sentences, adding ideas. You pick up one sentence from, like, let's say paragraph 3, and you want to take it to, from the middle of paragraph 3, you want to take it to the bottom of paragraph 3, or you might want to pick up an example from paragraph 2 and insert it in paragraph 4, right? So this is what you're doing here, okay? So you fix up your ideas. Do you need more supporting details? Are your supporting details appropriate or not? I hope you haven't repeated yourself in places. What happens is sometimes when you're trying to make a point, we explain it and then we re-explain it in different words. Now that's ridiculous. So you might want to, when you're revising, you edit those things out and then you come up with the next draft, right? So now you move on, and now what you do is that you look at your work again after 24 hours or a few hours, and remember that you have to gain distance. The concept is to gain distance from your work, right? How do you do that? Like I said, wait overnight, take a break, right? Ask someone else to read it, right? Typing sometimes helps. Printing out and looking at a printout is important. Reading it out loud and listening is important because our ears are more tuned towards finding errors. So these are good ways of doing it. Here's a checklist that I would recommend when you're revising and editing. Look at the purpose. Now, I would like for you to pause on these slides and then read everything that's there. So that it's clear to you what I mean when I talk about these little elements, the checklist, right? The purpose, the thesis or the main idea, the structure, the development or the evidence or the supporting points, the tone. These are a few things. Now pause your slide and read all this, please. This is very important. This will really help you write well and revise and edit well. Okay, next, the unity, the coherence, the introduction, the title, the conclusion, clarity in terms of how you're writing, effectiveness in terms of writing style, which I'll be teaching you. Clarity, the grammar here is something you've already learned at high school. That's what we expect. And correctness also we expect that you would have learned, right? These are also, so this is the sequence that you follow when you are revising and editing. You might do things that were on the first slide. You might, let's say, pick up purpose and thesis and structure first to look at. Then that's you revise your first draft for that. Then the second draft you will look at development and tone. For the third draft you might add unity, coherence, title, and then for the fourth you might do title, clarity, effectiveness, correctness. So you do that, and you don't have to have a gap of a day between every revision. But between the first and the second, yes, you do need that. Now you move on to the proofreading stage. By now you would have moved on to the fourth or the third or the fourth draft, and this would be something you would call, okay, this is a good one. And now you are going to be coming out, walking towards a wonderfully, nearly perfect paper, right? So you don't want to waltz out of your house in your underwear, right? So that's like you're half dressed. So a paper which hasn't gone through the stages of pre-writing, planning, revising a couple of times, and then editing, and then proofreading. I'm sorry, that's like you being in your underwear. It's a half-dressed paper, right? So what you need to do is now print it out, read it out aloud. Place a ruler under each line as you read so that you can focus on nitty-gritties. Now is the time to see, oh my god, I didn't put a full stop. Oh, this is a hyphenated word. I didn't put a hyphen here. Oh, the spacing here is not okay. I need to fix that. My capital isn't right. Oh, I was supposed to write for, and I was supposed to write from, and I've written form, right? These are things that your word processor is not going to pick out, right? A good idea is to read each sentence as a separate unit backwards, right? Like it says here. Then you can find each and every error. Typos are frowned upon, which basically means that they ruin your writing. So in the academic world, LUMS is a world-class university. We look at international standards. So we do not like typos. We do not forgive typos. We do not forgive spelling mistakes. Use the right type of words. Don't misuse words. We do not forgive formatting mistakes. In the first video, the last bit of the first video, I showed you examples of what, I mean, I just gave you a few guidelines about an academic paper. So I told you about the font sizes and the font style and the fact that you have proper margins and you have, um, double space your work. These things are very important, and these are the nitty gritties that you focus on here. And then you save your final draft, and you will realize that it was not that bad a process. It helped you to enjoy writing. Trust me, do the process, do it as an experiment, right? And you will start enjoying writing. You will no longer go through this awful system of not wanting to do it, asking for extra time, panicking at the last minute, and then, oh God, I wish I'd started earlier. What do I do? I could go to the writing center. Well, they're not going to help you if you don't have a draft ready, right? So think about it. You want to be able to calmly write your papers. And this goes for all subject areas, for all programs, undergrad, graduate, whether you're doing a PhD or an MPhil or whatever, postdocs also. We do this all the time. When we, as professionals, write our journal articles, our research, you can't imagine how many times we are revising and editing, right? So follow this process, enjoy the process of improving your work. That should give you, I feel so happy when I find a mistake and I fix it in my work. So look at it from that attitude. Your attitude is under your control. Okay, so follow the process and see where you go. Now, a good idea for you to do is to look at the little task that goes with this video, which you will find uploaded, and look at it. It shows you a student's writing, a sample of a draft for a student, and asks you to comment on it. And then it shows you one paragraph which is written in different ways. So you have to sort of guess or predict or whatever, figure out that which of the versions of the paragraph is the free writing, which is the first revision, which is the second revision, which is the final, right? So you read it and you see for yourself. When you read those samples, the process will become very clear to you. So attempt the task and let's talk about them.